Welcome to Let's Get Creative with Sam, the podcast. I'm Sam Rawlins and I'm a children's creative counsellor. That means I help kids unlock their imaginations and explore the amazing world of creativity. But being creative can also be a great way to take care of our minds and feelings, which is super important. In this podcast, we'll be doing all sorts of fun things. We'll be sharing creative tips and tricks that can help us feel good, interviewing other awesome creative folks in the industry who use creativity for mental well-being, and maybe even doing some creative challenges together that can help us express ourselves. So buckle up, get ready to unleash your creativity and explore how it can help us feel our best, and let's have some fun. Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Get Creative. And it's a rainy day here, autumn, a little bit of sun but not much. Loads of cars have got the lights on and I'm like, let's forget that and bring our own light, because that's what we're about. And that brings me to my next guest today, the beautiful Bobbie. I'm going to try not to say her last name wrong. Wrong? Loughlin. Hi, Bobbie.
Hello. Yes, very dreary here, but yes, like you say, we've got enough light to shine for everybody, haven't we?
Absolutely. I'm noticing that we're in the same colours, our branding colours.
Team yellow.
Yes, absolutely. And like you said, that is absolutely our light. So thank you for joining me today. We've gone through our own process, haven't we, to kind of get here, because we talked about this quite a while ago. But like I recently said to a different guest recently, life happens, and and I think it's that allowing, isn't it, to just have that space and then come back to it when you feel ready.
Yes, 100%.
Definitely. So would you like to introduce yourself to everybody who's listening or watching today?
Of course, yes. So my name's Bobbie. I look at offer SEND support services, essentially. Obviously, that's got quite a wide range of scope, but essentially, SEND law trained. I live in Wakefield. If you can think of it, I've probably got it. ADHD, autistic traits, very broken body, chronic pain, so all the fatigue, sort of all the dyspraxic traits that kind of come from being lopsided. So sort of navigating through perimenopause and just raising two SEND kids, which for those of us out there just know how much of a wild and bumpy ride that can be. So I kind of bring all of that bundle together and essentially offer you guys the support you need, from a kind of a more shoulder to cry on, not necessarily that's an informal side of things, but holding the space for you guys to kind of getting out the textbooks and looking through SEND law when needed, and putting arguments together to keep make sure that things are right in between, and then that's me.
Thank you, Bobbie. So we know, don't we, that there's a lot of families that need support around SEND. Can you just explain what SEND means for people who don't know what it is?
Of course. So special educational needs, SEN, special educational needs, sometimes SEND with a D on the end, special educational needs and disabilities. Essentially, it's around the same thing. And it's when some area, whether it's cognitive, physical, means that for a child specifically can't navigate life due to sort of an impairment. So whether that's physical disability, learning difficulties, trying to navigate with a potentially ADHD brain, autistic brain, both, your dyspraxias, your dyslexias, so your sort of learning disabilities, but it can also cover, and I'm keen to mention and highlight things like fetal alcoholic syndrome disorder, Tourette's, epilepsy, anywhere where there's just essentially higher risks, and obviously things like Down syndrome, Fragile X, that just can impact cognitively on the demands placed on average children. So it's just, you know, we could have children or adults with, you know, with ADHD, but to where they found areas in their life that means that they can do tasks at work, tasks at school that don't impact, but obviously we know a lot of it is built into what they call this kind of neurotypical level. So generally, once we are learning about our brains and seeing those differences in how our brains work, generally there's need for support. So yeah, it's around, there's a whole section called SEN law, and that's around the sort of disability and discrimination rights to protecting these children that are recognised as what we call recognised as SEN children. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So do you work with children, adults, both?
So a mixture to a degree. I'm not essentially hands-on with the children. My services are mainly aimed at parents and carers, and in terms of if they want to come to me in terms of, I mean, various reasons. I've had where families have separated, and so I've had, you know, a dad just come in, check in with me every, I don't know, 6 months, sort of 6 weeks to 2 months, and just kind of going, oh, I'm learning more about this, and obviously we've got change, and how do I navigate that with my children? I can have some that kind of have like home life quite fairly well contained, but they need extra support getting school or adjustments, or they're struggling for a child to access school. So we can talk about more around, again, this is more where the law side of it comes into. I can go through responsibilities and legal frameworks and understanding that sort of give and take of expectations. So that's done kind of similar to how we are now, video, phone call, whatever works best. Just with me, you know, we'll brainstorm, feel through ideas from anything from, you know, sleeping, eating, all of those basic needs, to, you know, the absolute struggling when they're melting down, bursting with just too much overwhelm essentially, and how we can help really wind back and support that, and areas to look at strategically throughout the day. So that's one area. I also do more of a specialist area in terms of what's known as EHCP support. That's educational healthcare plans. So some children require further level of adjustments to be able to access their education, and that's what's known as educational healthcare plan. So again, I can do sort of a more informal talking through the process and overview, to actually understanding how appeals work, arguments work, again, pulling back on the law in terms of criteria for things, and looking at options. Lastly, and this is I guess the most sort of unique and bespoke thing that I do, is what I call connecting the dots. And this is when a family can approach me and they say, we have no idea what's going on. Child is, you know, appearing anxious, or child's reluctant to leave. Child can be aggressive. Child's hurting, you know, siblings. Child's hurting me. Child's kicking off at school. Child's refusing to go to school. What's going on? And I'm like, okay, pop the brakes on, and I do essentially full analysis from nervous system, sensory, real in-depth sensory profile. You look at a big basis on Maslow, which I'm sure you know, Sam. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where we really look at the sort of physiological layers of that kind of core concrete foundation, because we find if any of us or Maslow's theory was that if we don't have this concrete foundational base, like a pyramid, the pyramid will fall without those crumbles. So, and often, and as obvious as it sounds, things like being able to access drink, being able to access food, being able to access toilet at school, you know, or even regulating temperature. Sometimes it's these things across the day can accumulate and build up to bigger. There's normally some additional sensory issues going on as well. And again, depending on your own personal journeys, circumstances, it might be that you have, for example, an ADHD diagnosis, but you're still looking at that further area of support, and then I can go through that. It may be that you're umming and ahhing, is there ADHD, is there autism, is there, you know, dyslexia, is it low self-esteem? Again, I can add those areas in as and where's needed, essentially. So it's quite a customizable report. It's quite a big, hefty report. And then you get kind of a sort of short-term, mid-term, long-term recommendations at the end. Obviously can be implemented at home, at school, and yeah, it just gives you that sort of grounding, I guess, on understanding where to go next and what you can be doing in terms of understanding and practical support for our children.
Brilliant. I mean, that's such an amazing service that you offer, Bobbie, because I feel that being a counsellor myself, you know, but particularly working with children hands-on and then supporting the parents. So I very work. I always call it a triangle because obviously the child is the most important in that way. However, having the relationship with a parent and helping them feel supported as well is a huge part of the work, isn't it?
That's kind of why we've developed it as well, you know, so in terms of your, you know, your containment and your boundaries, that, you know, you can actually be there for the child exclusively, and allowing the parents to obviously have that, you know, their own space, you know, in terms of confidentiality and all of those other side, you know, when we flip into sort of more ethical side of things of therapy, that's why, you know, it works so well, because it, you know, alleviates the pressure from yourselves and also gives the parent that much more, I guess, expert and, you know, just that sort of hands-on practical support. Definitely. Kind of almost the opposite to therapy as well, isn't it? Because therapy is a bit more out and, you know, projecting, whereas I'm more, you know, in helicopter mode, rescuer mode. Have we tried? What's this? How do they do when they do this? And, you know, much more investigative, hence, you know, connecting the dots. I always think of myself as the detective with the magnifying glass looking through.
I love that. I think, and I can kind of see that, the way that you're speaking about, and your real passion for it as well, to be able to support parents. So you said that you've got 2 SEND children.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that you've gone through a lot of this process as well yourself as a mum.
100%. I mean, probably every imagine an emotion, every emotion that you can probably think, from, you know, literally feeling that, you know, my children have, you know, I always call them lovingly, you know, the dementors in Harry Potter, when they just, you know, flood in and drain your soul, because you can be left so empty. You know, you just don't have, you know, they've both got very different needs and in very different directions, and the intensity, and, you know, I must say, I guess, from an element of time and an element of, you know, grace and understanding and knowledge, it's definitely helped reduce a lot of that, you know, to the point where, you know, I am able to now do what I'm doing. You know, certainly couldn't have been, you know, doing this well, probably sort of six odd years ago. So, you know, it's been quite a process where we've got, I guess, enough stability, at least with them, to being able to start thinking kind of outside the box a little.
Yeah, definitely. And when I think about like what you're doing, you're helping the parents how you has helped yourself, or wasn't, you had to kind of find your own way. And I feel that a lot of parents do still feel isolated, and that they don't, believe that they can reach out for support, and they've got to be the rock. They've got a I mean, I'm not being judgmental whatsoever. But obviously a lot of parents that come to me are mainly mums, you know, for whatever that reason is, for their, you know, their family. But then when you're having those conversations with them, they will open up to you. They will, you know, they will share what's going on, but then you also see a picture of what's going on for them as well. And that I can't break down. No, I've got to keep this family going. And that, that's really hard to hear, isn't it? And to see. And then, like you said, they see us as the experts and like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on here, and I'm really stuck. And then you get all these like real kind of questions from them, really sometimes really deep questions, because they're so scared as well of what to do as a parent. And a lot of it goes back to that they're letting others down, they're letting themselves down, and they're letting their family down, and that is absolutely not the answer, is it?
I could essentially write that from, I think, values of myself. I mean, obviously going back to, and it's funny that you've said that, and obviously me again, my detective, whether I'm looking in or looking out, it's funny that you said that, because as a parent, I feel like I've been quite, I guess, strong to say what is out there, who should be doing what, who is, you know, the actual response, you know, who's responsible. So, you know, it's all right going, oh, I've got, you know, XYZ here, but, you know, I'll be sending the emails, who, you know, digging through, going, okay, there's a problem here. Nobody seems to be understanding. So who is it? You know, is it, you know, where it falls within CAMS, for example? Is it that it falls within, you know, a different support service? And some of these support services, because they feed directly into schools, as parents, sometimes you don't even know that these support services exist. So in parent mode, I feel like I've tried to do, you know, I've attended the meetings, I've done the peer support, I've reached out when something's been on offer. But as me as Bobbie, it's very much that, you know, I have seen myself as, you know, that knight in shining armor, and nobody can see past that armor. And if people do see through, if they get a crack, you know, a glimpse, then that feels, you know, I guess this is all talking of, I guess, that sort of oversensitizedness, but you know, I really feel like, how have they seen inside? What can I, you know, how do I get that mask, you know, that armor back up? And, you know, probably more around like my leg, again, chronic pain and things in my leg. So it's almost like I have to be strong enough to cope with me. And I guess as well from a guilt perspective, and obviously you said earlier on about that, I've got to do all of these things, you know, as a mum, I suppose, speaking, you know, kind of not on where we were going with this, but you know, we have this I guess that maternal, you know, I have created this being, I have birthed this being, they are now my responsibility. You know, there is no other way of doing that other than this is it. So I really do feel, so obviously from a collection of parents that have spoken to you, just even personally, I can connect with all of those parts in different ways.
And it can be really hard. So one of the things that parents do often ask me, and again going back to that they don't feel that they're the expert, which we know they are, is their child is, so an example, their child is on the waiting list, you know, for an assessment, and they've heard a lot of information from other parents and other people and things about EHCPs. Now, this is, I guess, so I'm asking you. I'm kind of thinking how I'm saying
this. No, please do. It's, you know,
so what the question that I get often asked is that, so they're on the waiting list for an assessment, can I still apply for an EHCP?
Okay. Essentially, yes, you can. Yes, you can. That's answering the question. Yes, you can. And I suppose I am happy to go through that, in a bit more detail, or if anybody's ever got any questions, feel free to ask. And I guess whilst we're talking more specifically on EHCPs, I speak to a lot of parents, and I get, why is there so many unwritten rules? What are these secrets? And I'm thinking in my head, I'm going, well, there aren't any. There's just, it's just, there's regulation, there's law, there's very specific points covering it all. To me, there is no, hidden. But I do forget that I've sat and studied all of this, and therefore it makes sense, and actually, if I were a parent that hadn't done that, where would I glean this information?
Yeah.
I want to be able to put together a useful resource for parents to answer these types of questions. It is very much, as we just said off camera, on that to-do list. However, I want to get it right for you guys, as listeners, as people that want to know more. I want to get it right. I don't want to be putting a lot of time and energy into, a big, complex, document
like the
thing.
EHCP is.
Well, yeah, I guess the other thing is a bit like, I don't know, again, if you've heard of DLA, which is disability living allowance. And obviously that comes with a little guidance book, doesn't it? But obviously nobody ever wants to read the guidance book because, it's long, boring and overwhelming. And I don't want this to be long, boring and overwhelming. And so I guess I'm asking, and I keep on asking, what structure would people like? For me, I'm a visual learner, visual processor. So actually having something that I could refer back to and see the image of, and have sort of maybe a tick box, or this means that, and I can put a note on it, right? When did I send that off at that date? And having something that I can kind of write on and have different shapes to it, for me, would be the best way forward. But obviously, people much prefer, can tend to prefer, a video tutorial, or, some more maybe auditory. So I really would love to know from people, what would be an ideal way. Because as I say, in terms of going back to the question, yes, you can. So the process isn't, I apply for an EHCP, get to the EHCP at the end, suddenly everything's hunky-dory.
No.
So if we just sort of stretch all of that out, and that getting an EHCP it's a good marker, but it's still, the work isn't done, and it is one piece of the journey, which we might be talking about at some point if we get there. But in terms of that, that journey, it's 1 mile marker, as it were. Before we get to that mile marker, it's sort of 2 distinct stages. You're going to start off with a needs assessment, and that's what you're essentially applying for. So at this stage, all you're doing is a needs assessment. We see the child has needs, i.e. there needs to be an adaptation to their learning. Nobody's maybe not quite sure. We don't quite have the authoritativeness to, pull all of that together. An expert from a speech and language therapist that can really identify unique ways of processing phonics, for example. Educational psychologists would look at, how we could maybe adapt and create a really, flow to their day. Sensory occupational therapist would really be able to go, right, probably that's way too loud, that might be way too bright, I think they need a lot more movement, actually I think they need a lot more containment, and really hone and bring in that thing, that kind of cross-body analysis. That then gets bundled up once those therapists have gone out to do that, and that goes across back to what we call essentially the LA, but within which is the local authority. Within the local authority, there'll be a SEN team. So Leeds, for example, is SEN. Let me get this right. SEN SAP. Wakefield is SEN Art. It'll all be slightly different acronyms, but essentially there'll be a SEN team that will process that information. It'll go to panel, and they will make a decision if they feel that these adjustments that these therapists have recommended are way higher and above what a school should or could be doing reasonably within the constraints, finances and budgets and everything else they've got. It essentially boils down to money. It's not as crystal clear as money, but that is kind of the black and white of it. And then you may get the plan at the end. So that's it in a very super brief nutshell. There are stages, there are appeals, there are reasons why it gets bottlenecked at some areas, but that's kind of the briefest I can do. If you want to do another podcast on EHCP, let's.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I feel that'll be really beneficial for people that are watching, particular parents or carers. It could be, it doesn't have to be mum, dad, it could be other kinds as well. Absolutely. And sometimes even schools as well, they struggle with where to go with it. So yeah, that's some real valuable information. And I would say recommend people that are watching, listening to speak to Bobbie as well, because she knows her stuff. Definitely. Okay, so let's move on to the journey, because I've heard you mention it a few times and I'm really curious now.
Yes, so I thought today, you know, as I was walking home, I would explore being present in your journey. And I thought that we could be really, really broad with this topic, a little bit like containment. And again, you know, let's talk more about containment another day. But I thought it could be really, you know, sometimes a journey is having that kind of, you know, mindful choice to go and allow yourself to go to the toilet, you know, or make that cup of tea that you've been seeking. Sometimes journeys are really, really scary. Sometimes they're long. Sometimes it feels like there isn't even an end in sight. Sometimes, you know, and sometimes it can be somewhere in between. Sometimes even a holiday that you're absolutely thrilled and excited about and, you know, absolutely brimming, can also fill with these huge mixed emotions of being scared or anxious or worried and or everything in between. And I just thought, what a good way of depicting that, you know. Absolutely. Being present in your journey.
I love that. It makes a lot of sense. And I feel that mindfulness is so important, and that I do a lot of work on mindfulness with the children that I support, very creatively, as you can imagine, you know. So a lot of
it doesn't matter, does it? It's, I think, as well, I mean,
not
flipping back in parent mode, it's mirroring, isn't it? You know, even if even if the child's not actively engaging, it's just mirroring those one of your toolbox. It's starting to open up that toolbox as the guiding adult and just going, oh, I've chosen to use this today. And that in itself is mindful as well, isn't it?
Of course it is. Absolutely. It's being in the present moment, in it, which is so hard for so many people, because, and I feel that because life has become, let's say it, because I feel it as chaotic in so many ways. I mean, social media creates that chaotic and the emotions, and then everything's about time-based, isn't it? Time-based. That was one of the reasons, I guess, why I finally went self-employed, because even though I love my job, absolutely loved it, and I gained so much confidence, and it worked very much beside being a school counsellor. It helped parents understand a lot as well, like, because I was on the side of things. But then everything is timed, you know. You have to know exactly where you are and scheduled and routined, and then know that you've got to get this work done, and deadline dates and things like that. And I feel that after so long, it gets really heavy, and it can lead to burnout as well, can't it? Because your brain just starts to stop.
Yeah. I guess it's a parallel too, and I don't know if you've ever done it or anybody else out there, calorie counting, or essentially measuring your food. I am a throw it together. What have we got? Leftovers. Oh, I've heard that, you know, kale's going to cure me this week, so shove some kale in, you know. And you know, for me to try and cook by stopping every 10 seconds to, oh, I've got to weigh and measure, and oh, I'm only allowed 3 strawberries on my, you know, that is the sort of thing that breaks me. That constant, I mean, again, some people like the rhythm and the routine and knowing that safety. For me, it was, and I can imagine the same of, like you're saying, oh, it's 22, I'm really sorry, that's it, gotta go. And I think as well, like, I quite pride myself on, again, I mean, well, I suppose it's all around the journey, isn't it, of where we are now as you know, as us, you know, talking today, that obviously, again, flipping back on our experiences where, you know, you take your children into these essentially NHS appointments and they've got a certain amount of time to talk to you as the adult across the child, whilst they're kind of half observing if they're writing a, you know, how they're holding a pen, and if they're, I don't know, walking in a straight line and, you know, following instructions, and all of these, to me, you know, quite arbitrary tasks, and the shame and the pressure that you're felt on as a parent, you know, to get that right. So early, you know, you said, do you work with children? And I was like, I've made it quite a point that, and yes, I can go in to observe children as well. And I do some sessions, you know, as I say, especially when I'm doing the report writing, obviously, yeah, I love them, and when they draw me pictures and all of those things. But no, I wanted to make it that these parents had that time, probably, and again, about this kind of feeling of overwhelm. And another thing that sparked this idea of this journey is that I try not to gatekeep, probably, again, detriment to my own, you know, thing. And I think as well, I can get so, yeah, again, with my magnifying glass up, that I give parents almost probably too much information sometimes, so that yes, they are coming to me, but you know, suddenly I'm like, oh, try this, try that, and it's so much to take on. So yeah, it's just trying to just help pace it, but as I say, giving the parents, and I guess the greatness of, like you're saying, moving away from somebody else's, I guess, rules and structure, to be able to just slow everything down. You know, at the hub as a whole, you know, we say we meet people where they're at, and I've had sessions where I've really needed a key piece of information from a parent. I've just literally, I'm like, if you can just give me this one piece of thing, but they've needed 3 odd hours, you know, an hour here, an hour there across the week, to just be able to just go, this is everything that's happened, you know, yoga style. And they've needed to feel heard. They've needed to feel that somebody's taken on and, I guess, shared some of that pain, the times that they've not been heard as parents, and that's okay. Like, that is okay, and that is part of it. Like, if it takes me, you know, getting through and the parents and caregivers being where they need to be, ready for their journey, or well, that's the 2, maybe that's the, you know, the A to B, let's make use of the 2, then that's what we're here for.
Absolutely, totally. And I think what comes up for me when you're just talking about that, I'm just going to have to mention that, I'm not sure if anybody's noticed, but I feel like I'm tripping a bit today. I don't quite know what's going on. I've got no filters or background.
It's just,
I just wanted to share that today.
Maybe AI, maybe the robots are just kind of coming in and taking over.
Oh my goodness, no, nobody's taking over me. Nobody is. Absolutely not. I am myself, and that's what I'm going to say. So what comes up when you're talking about that is about our boundaries. So obviously, when I was working in my job and schools and things like that, boundaries were very different. Whereas now, it's still important to have our boundaries for everybody. Everybody needs boundaries, don't they? And that brings in your own routine, but then you can do it in what works for you. So when you're saying that the support, how you support parents, and that sometimes it is that offload, that's kind of how I work with them right at the beginning. But then I also, my boundaries are around that they're allowed to email me because they need that space. And when a parent goes, oh, I didn't know I could, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. If you need to email me information that you feel will benefit the work I do with your child, then absolutely do. But my boundary is very much to say that I won't always reply.
Yeah.
But I will acknowledge it. And that's the support that I'm giving them to feel heard.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Definitely so. Okay, so thank you so much, Bobbie. Love speaking with you. We haven't quite finished yet, but we're on the next part of the episode. So we come to the part where I ask you for 3 tips.
Okay. So we are looking at, and I feel like the tips kind of haven't quite got the ness under from where we were looking at. As I say, we did get a bit on a sort of a distraction, but in terms of, you know, or I guess if I go back to the start very quickly, I think sometimes we can feel that we've got this insurmountable journey that, you know, we're from a standing start, and our toolbox, like a bit like me, you know, I've come in with all these brilliant ideas, and our backpack now of all of these things is just so heavy. We just don't even know where to start. So do have a lot more tips, and in terms of going through, you know, what are those external factors, and is there just an avoidance in there? Is there just, you know, what's going on? And I guess before I give my tips, I'll give a hint that it's never time. You know, it's not, oh, I wish I had more time. It's not that. There will be so much more going on. You know, your story is different. Your characters and your prologue, it's not the same as everybody else. In terms of 3 tips, I'm going to say be gentle with yourself. Just, to me, the fact that you are, again, talk about being present, the fact that you have thought about this journey needs to be made, that's it. That's the start. That's you on your roller coaster now. It might be that the roller coaster's broken down and you're waiting for the repair guy to come, and you're strapped in and you're ready and you've got yourself there. It will come. So be gentle on yourself. Third one, second one, I can't even count today. Rehab, recovery, therapy is hard. Whether it's a physical process, whether it's a, you know, going through, it is hard. And again, be gentle with yourself, wherever that's sitting within you. And accountability, and I feel like I've sort of jumped from this sort of standing start to accountability, almost like you're getting there. Get it to work for you. You know, you've recognized that this journey needs to be taken, whether it's a small journey, a fun journey, an absolutely life-changing catastrophe that's happened probably outside of your control. It doesn't matter how you bring those steps in, but make it work for you. Are you a people person? Are you, you know, not wanting to people? Are you wanting your own little tick list? Are you wanting to do it with music? Are you wanting to have a goal that allows you to go off and buy your Lush bath bombs for your self-care because that's what means it to you? That doesn't matter. It's about just, and again, it's that exploring. And sometimes you'll be doing some of that exploring even at the start of what that accountability looks like to you. So again, you're still feeling like you're just jammed in and your bag's really heavy and you can't get started. I guess as well, if anybody's ever, I don't know, done like restoration furniture, and by the time you just think you're forever standing and stripping and priming and doing all of these things, and all you want to do is slap that colour on, that preparation is still key, fundamental core work, and it is still progress. It's still that 1% each day. So just explore with kindness to yourself your journey.
Love them. Absolutely love them. And I'm listening to them as myself as well, not just as a therapist.
Yeah.
I think we all have to kind of take on board our own like, what's the word?
Interpretation, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
And I thought that's why it was such a good thing, because say I've been really struggling. I've had a massive flare up with my hip and my knee, and so as I say, I'm writing this potentially with the idea of me going through a very painful, ups and downs, and I've had some intensive treatments and some therapy, and some scary choices to make down the road. So I guess that's where the original sparks come from, but it literally has fired up with, as I say, information that I'm giving to parents, either especially when they're they're friends and stuff, and I'm kind of going back to time and boundaries. I go like, right, have a coffee with you, here's everything I know, off you go. I mean, again, if you want to come back and explore it in more detail. So it's finding that balance, but it really can. The more I've started to do all of my notes for it, I was really like, oh, this is just every direction. And I asked my daughter on the way to school, I was like, what do you think about journeys? And she was like, well, depends what journey it is and what's at the end. And I did, and I was like, oh, we've not even mentioned the good journeys. It really can be anything that you are, I guess, just choosing to do, and sometimes they will be hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seasons, weather change, other people's opinions, your own confidence in carrying out that journey. Okay, sort of metaphorically, but maybe literally, the equipment. Have you got the equipment to do the journey? Have you got the knowledge to do the journey? All of those things.
Yeah, so important. And they say that life is a journey, but actually it's not just life, it's everything in between, in it, that creates that bigger journey, the small journeys. I guess it's like, what, I can't think of how to say it, but basically it's, you have these big goal dreams and desires where you want to get to, and that. And if we think of that self-actualization as well, going back to Rogers, so Rogers was the founder of person-centered therapy, which is what I was originally trained in. So that is kind of, if I come out with words like that, that's what it's about. Self-actualization. I realized about 3 months ago that actually you never get to self-actualization. You never get to the top because you always want more. You've always want more. And
I haven't even talked about raising the bar on ourselves, which is a whole other thing. Yeah, that was another thing that, keep it in check when you want to do even a really small thing.
Yeah.
Just because it's small or small to others, if you've struggled to do it, if you've struggled to get up due to depression, due to mental incapacity, due to physical incapacity, due to even a child feeding from you, and you have struggled to get up to just give yourself a glass of water, do not then diminish when you've done it. Oh, well, I did it. Actually, it is that you don't then need to raise it. Oh, well, I got myself a glass of water, but I didn't manage to go to the toilet or cook myself a dinner, or I cooked myself a dinner, but it was only a microwave meal. Have you set out what you wanted to achieve?
That I can really resonate with that, and I'll make this the last kind of point before we finish. But swimming's been a huge thing for me for a long time, and I learned to swim as a teen, and then went through traumatic experiences and that. And I recently went to Portugal in a business retreat in June, and I went with a friend first, a couple of friends, and then met the others later. And basically, the part of it that I'm relating to right now is that I'd got in the pool and I'd done a few strokes, as in my strokes. And then when the person spoke to me and went, oh, that was amazing, I went, oh, well, I wasn't going to do it like that. Because that's what I did so much. And it really threw me, because then I didn't get the encouragement and support, because it was like, I don't even a photo once took or a video, because, and I think it's because of how I behaved, because I'd gone poof, and they're like past patterns how I used to be all the time. So
I mean, it's funny, because I was going to say you stepped into a swimming costume, and then I thought,
I didn't even think about that. For me, it was not having to just stand at the side, and you know what I mean. And
I mean, as I say, to peel it back even further, I chose to go on a holiday involving a swimming pool.
Yeah, and that took me a long time to get there for that.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So what you say is so important and so valuable for ourselves. And I mean, I'm a parent myself. It doesn't matter that my children are in their 30s. I've got 4 grandchildren. Do you know what I mean? So supporting them and however. But yeah, absolutely. Really loving speaking to you, Bobbie. So where can people find you? Apart from what's on your top.
Yeah, at Lighthouse Therapy Hub across pretty much all socials, really, at Lighthouse Therapy Hub. But, you know, feel free to, there are, you know, contact numbers and email addresses and, yeah, hopefully, potentially membership area coming soon if I can work out a way. Again, I'm trying to balance the inner ethics, ADHD, me, again, going back to the gatekeeping, I want to, and boundaries. How do I give you all the things without it being overwhelming that you think, oh, I'll look at it later, and then, oh, but I don't want my subscription to run out. So again, ADHD friendly membership, will it exist? Will I have to just compromise somewhere? And sort of potentially I have pre-done peer support groups as well, but looking at potentially rolling that into some more permanent, probably within the membership area, really would be where that sits. So exciting things, but again, it's my journey at my pace. So whilst they're all up here, we're making inroads, and as I say, potentially if I do have this operation over the next year, it might give me some more downtime to start getting some of these big ideas more literally onto paper, but they are things that are brewing.
Sounds really good and really exciting for you, but like you said, in your own time, in your own journey. Thank you so much, Bobbie. It's been so lovely.
Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Indeed.
So thank you everybody for listening or watching today. You can everything that Bobbie spoke about, her tips, where you can find her will be in the show notes as well, so you will be able to contact her if you want to. And I will be back with another episode soon. We are coming to the end of the season. I'll be taking a break November to December. I won't be back till next year now due to rehearsing for Panto. So I've kind of realised that is my kind of pause button.
Wow.
Just to look a little bit after myself as well. But thank you so much. It's been amazing. I will see you later, Bobbie. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.